We're shipping up to Boston to get a rose tattoo. Turn up that dial. It's the Dropkick Murphys on the Music Universe podcast.
Well, Matt, we got Tim Brennan with us, and he's such a fantastic guy. Really cool to chat with him for the time we got, and I'm excited about this album.
I really am too. I can't wait to hear it. You know, I knew about Dropkick Murphys. I'm sure you'd heard Shipping Up to Boston, maybe Rose Tattoo, but since moving to DC and making friends here, I've been introduced to sort of the wider world. I'm like, hey, they're really good. They're a great blend of Celtic, punk, rock. They've found that magic formula they have fans all over the country. But it's one of those things where you'll be talking to somebody and it's like Dropkick, and you're like, have you ever heard of this band called the Dropkick Murphys? And they're like, Dropkick Murphys? How do you know about Dropkick Murphys? I love Dropkick Murphys. So their fans still treat them like they're like this best kept secret, but really their popularity is really big and they've kind of exploded. And we talked with Tim about this a little bit. They've kind of exploded over the last year with everything they've been doing to stay creative during the pandemic.
Yeah, you know, they were one of the first, if not the first, as I mentioned when you watched the interview, to kind of pioneer the live stream. You know, they did it from Fenway Park and raised over $700,000 for charity. So super charitable guys. And one thing forgot to ask them, though, was if they had any tour dates lined up for later in the year. But it kind of sounds like everything's still open on that end based on what we chatted about.
Absolutely, you know, and they don't even know how, well, I'm sure they know maybe that information's out there. They're still a little unsure on how they're even going to work it May 1st when they have the release party virtually for Turn Up That Dial. Got to stop here for a second. We didn't plan this, but we're wearing almost the exact same dang shirt, and I'm like freaking out.
Yeah, I actually pointed that out. We sat down. And we hadn't really spoken, and we never really tell each other what we're going to wear. We just grab a dressy shirt and put it on.
And you never wear maroon, and I always wear some kind of pastel color. Right. So this is really freaky.
Yeah, it was just meant to be, I guess. So we just sat down, and I'm like, hey, look in the camera. What are we doing here?
Well, it's funny because if you see me look this way, which you'll see in the interview, my laptop, just with how my layout is, my laptop's over here, my camera's here. So I had to like look at you and I did a double take. I'm like, are you kidding me? But you know, it was really cool to talk to Tim. This is a really crucial time. They're releasing an album. It's possible they might be able to tour end of this year, beginning of next year. Things are coming back, and we're going to talk about that after this interview. But right now, here's our interview with Dropkick Murphys lead guitarist and lead songwriter, Tim Brennan. Oh my gosh, Tim Brennan, I'm so excited because, you know, Dropkick Murphys, I'd known about Shipping Up to Boston, I'd known about Rose Tattoo, but I feel like this pandemic, forgive me for saying so if maybe I was unaware of how successful you are worldwide before this, but I feel like this pandemic has really allowed you guys to blossom from this band out of Boston to this like global force for a really, really cool, really unique genre of music that is all your own. What has this pandemic been like for you guys having the success that you guys have had?
Well, I'll tell you, it's been interesting because so I've been in the band for almost 19 years, so 18 years now. And the band's been around for 25 years. And I don't think we've ever been home for more than 3 weeks at a time since the band started. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the first thing to get used to was the fact that we were home. Now you learn quickly that the greatest thing about home is leaving. And then of course, the greatest thing about home is coming back after you've left for a little bit. And so for the first time we were forced to just sort of, you know, be home you know, everyone goes through a nice existential crisis where they say, well, what use am I to the world if I'm not on the road playing the guitar in front of people? You know, but luckily we were able to throw together. So the first domino that fell, which actually let me know that this was a serious thing, was our St. Patrick's Day shows got canceled. we don't cancel nothing for nobody. And so when we got word that those were being axed, I was like, oh, something's really happening here. And so luckily we were able to throw together that first live stream last St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
And that was great. That was essentially just us playing live in front of a couple of cameras. So then in May, the end of May, we got to do Fenway Park. We got to play on the infield. And, people ask, is it strange to play in front of nobody? And the answer to that question, specifically dealing with Fenway Park, is you're so concerned about not messing up the infield at Fenway Park that you don't even have time to notice that there's nobody there.
Yeah.
And then 10 months went by between doing Fenway and this last St. Patrick's live stream that we did. And that 10 months felt like an eternity, I'll tell you.
That 10 months was that when you guys were working on the new record?
That was when we finished the new record, yes. So before it all started in early winter, late 2019, we had started the new record. And the plan was to come home from our January, February European tour, do St. Patrick's Day in Boston, and then finish the record. And those plans changed pretty severely, obviously. So we couldn't resume again until, the fall, essentially. And when we did, it was like one guy could go into the studio at a time, essentially. So it was a much different way of making a record for us. But at that point, we were just so happy to be able to finish it. We were so happy that the studio gave us the okay to come in even one at a time,
Wow.
So it was an interesting way to do a record for us. But we were at the point where we're like, you just tell us what we got to do to be safe, and we will do it, because we just need to do something.
Yeah, because I know you guys usually record somewhat live, right, and then do some overdubs. So that had completely a turnaround thing to more like a Nashville tracking session where you just go in and one at a time and just hope that it all comes together the way you planned.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, like even in the past when we've always done, Matt, the drummer, will do his tracks, and we'll have me and James, the two guitar players, will play along with him. Typically those are considered scratch tracks for the most part, but sometimes everything works out great. But so we're used to sort of going in and overdubbing stuff like that. But when everybody's in the studio, you get, your guy goes and does his banjo track, and then the accordion track gets done, and an acoustic track or whatever. So you hear it all sort of come together in front of you when everybody's there. When you're doing it one at a time, so I would go in to play accordion, say, and I would, go through the songs that I had to play accordion on, and that's how I would hear them. And then until the next person came in to do their part, you wouldn't hear the sort of completed song until much later. Mm-hmm. And so that was, that took some getting used to, but once we got going again, things moved fairly quickly once we had a handle on how to do it. The hardest thing actually was doing backing vocals, because normally we have like 30 guys in a room and they do it 2 or 3 times, and then we've got a whole bunch of people.
Wow.
This time we had to go, there was probably 4 of us in there at a time, and each one was in a separate room. Wow. And we just had to do it a million times,
I want to talk a little bit about the songwriting. I know you're one of the primary songwriters for the group. The group's sound is so unique. It's Celtic, but it's punk, it's rock, you got some fiddle in there. How do you even begin to write for the unique sound of the Dropkick Murphys?
Well, it's interesting. So I was just a fan to begin with. So the first few Dropkick Murphys records that came out, I was just a fan before I joined the band. I always loved how the sort of way that they meld the sort of the Irish music and rock or punk or whatever it was together. But when I first joined the band, the first few records that I did with the band, it was very much like, here's an Irish song, here's a rock song, here's a punk song, you know. And as the years went on, I think we've gotten better at sort of slamming all those things together into one song, you know. You know, I think it's a matter of sort of touchstones. You just sort of need the right touchstones to know the ingredients that make up a good Dropkick Murphy song. You know, we're all fans of the Pogues, who were like the first guys to really amplify Irish music. Like it had, you know, it had sort of been revved up before, but the Pogues were the first ones to sort of like plug in and do it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so the band definitely took a cue from them, and then giant fans of the Clash and the Ramones and things like that. And you know, just sort of having all of those touchstones and knowing what makes the songs from those bands so great. And mm-hmm. You know, you just kind of try to make it your own, you know?
You know, you said something earlier, and Buddy, I'll let you ask more about the new album in a second, but you said since you joined the band, it's been no more than maybe 3 weeks at home at a time. Where all would you perform, and when did it go national, if it wasn't already? When did it go national for you guys, just sort of a up, down, East Coast thing versus traveling all around the country?
Luckily, I had the benefit of joining sort of a couple years after the band became a nationally touring act. They, mm-hmm. you know, they started sort of East Coast, and you know, they would meet a band on tour somewhere along the East Coast who was from San Francisco, and they would get a show out there, and then they would, you know, get a show in Boston for the San Francisco band, and sort of built a network like that. And so, I mean, fortunately enough for me, they did a lot of the heavy lifting before I showed up. You know what I mean? As far as just like road dogging it. But yeah, they just sort of literally just kind of like laid the groundwork piece by piece like that, meeting bands and making connections. And so, you know, the first record came out in 96, 97, second one by, you know, the second record, by the time the Gang's All Here came out in, you know, 98 or 99, they were like a nationally touring act. And I mean, touring nationally in the sense that they went all across the country. Maybe they weren't known all across the country, but they went right across the country, you know what I mean? So when I showed up, you know, there was some good stakes in the ground as far as the US. So when I joined in 2003, we were starting to make a lot of trips over to Europe. And so I sort of got to see the groundwork get built over in Europe, you know, from playing in 2003, 2004, playing, you know, essentially bars in Germany, to now we play, you know, like small basketball arenas in Germany. And so just sort of have seen that and it wasn't like a very quick thing. It was a very slow, gradual increase in the amount of people that would come, and then we'd play a city 2 times, and then the third time we'd be bumped up to the bigger venue, and so like talk about a like a master class in like working hard. I got to watch guys like Ken just sort of conquer it, you know what I mean? And it's really crazy to watch. And I have the benefit of just being a guy who writes music and plays the guitar, and I don't have to worry too much about like the business side of things or anything like that. And so for a guy like Ken, who started the band in, you know, 96 and has made it what it is today, is just incredible, you know?
Yeah. It's amazing. And before I ask you about the album, I wanted to jump back a second about the live streaming. You guys kind of started pioneering that, because you guys were one of the first, if not the first band to go that route. Whose idea was that to, you know what, we're not going to be able to play live, let's live stream this thing?
You know, that's a very good question, and a very good point as well. you know, I don't think we get a lot of credit for being one of the first bands to do that. But you know, I don't know who had their eyes open wide enough to see that coming. You know what I mean? As far as Ken or management, but somebody did, and thank God. But yeah, I mean, from my point of view, we got a call saying that the shows weren't going to happen, and then maybe like 2 days later, we got the call saying like, all right, we're doing a show, but we're going to do it for cameras and we're going to put it on the internet. And luckily, nobody really batted an eyelash or thought like, well, that sounds stupid, because I think we all could sense that was the best thing that people who liked to watch live music were going to get for a little bit. So to answer your question, unfortunately, I couldn't put a name to the person that suggested that, but they do deserve credit, whoever it is.
Absolutely.
What we've been living with the last year. And but before we get on to the album, do you think when you guys go back to touring that live streaming might be more of a regular thing that you may offer?
That's a very good question. I mean, it feels like a cool thing to continue doing, you know. I couldn't say for sure. You know, I'm sure, you know, we've had fun doing them, I'll say that. And it's always a cool idea. You know, we always love the sort of idea where it's like, well, let's do one where we play the first record front to back, or, you know, just cool things like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was a thing that we sort of continued to do.
Yeah, I kind of, Matt and I've talked in other episodes that we think that this might be something that everybody may, since they're already embracing it, may continue to do, and just maybe offer ticketing tiers and, you know, even different areas and stuff. So I totally see that, and honestly hope it does become a part of the normal, but not to replace it like we've had to live with.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you know, somebody I was talking to earlier made a pretty good point, which is, you know, now it's clearly possible to do these sorts of things. So, I mean, you know, how cool would it be if you could watch, you know, the lineup of one of those European festivals or something virtually, or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Well, back on to the album. It's called Turn Up That Dial. It is your 10th full-length record. Middle Finger's the first single. It's out now. Tell us about
it. To say that we were over the moon to get back into the studio and finish this would be the understatement of the year. And so I think that it kind of shows in the record itself. It's a very lighthearted, up-tempo, sort of celebratory record, and that was all done on purpose, because I think with something like this you can go one or two ways. We could have written a dark album about how this year has been awful, or we could give something that we could give our fans something that they're going to want to listen to when this is all over, and we can just sort of celebrate being here again, you know. And so I guess that's what I would tell people about it is it's a very celebratory, lighthearted piece of music, I think.
Does it represent 2020?
I think it represents 2020 in the sense that we want it to be like, you know what, let's celebrate what we got. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's definitely some references in there to 2020 and what a crumb bum of a year it was. But for the most part, it's you know, we're just trying to celebrate the fact that, you know, we're still here, and when this is all over, we're gonna just be able to be around each other again, and all that sort of stuff, you know.
I love that. And I'll tell you, You guys were advertising that all throughout the last live stream. I hope every single person, all 70 some odd thousand from YouTube that I saw, not to mention Facebook, went on and purchased it. I hope your advertising methods did really well. And you're going to have another live stream May 1st. You're going to play the entire album live, I think from the same soundstage that you did the most recent concert from.
That's right. Yeah. We're going to do the album front to back and then some more stuff, which will be fun because, like I said, the way that we put this record together, you know, up until recently, we hadn't played these songs as they exist now in a room together all at the same time, you know? So getting to go through those has been really fun. And, you know, we're really excited about the songs on this album, and it's unfortunate that we can't go out right away and tour on it like we normally would, because I think a lot of these songs are going to be so great live. But until then, people can see us bang through the whole new album on May 1st. Yeah.
I love that. When you tour again, like we were talking about live stream, will you continue to have that charitable aspect? I know Fenway Park raised over $700,000. Will you continue to do stuff as the tours come back that keep that giving component that you guys are so known for?
Yeah, absolutely. We always have some sort of Clad-a-Fund representation out on the road with us. That's our sort of charitable organization that helps specifically like substance abuse and recovery and veterans and things like that. So we're always doing stuff that way. As far as the sort of live stream donation things, I couldn't say. I mean,
sure.
They were so. I mean, our fans and the people who support us are there's nobody better. I mean, you know, case in point, the amount of money that was raised during the Fenway thing, it's just astronomical. You know, and to be a part of that, again, as somebody who was just a fan of the band when I was a kid, you know, to be a part of that, it's like, you know, when our manager calls us and says, this is how much money we raised, like it almost doesn't faze me because I feel like I'm hearing about somebody else's life, you know. It's crazy.
I love that. Well, buddy, you have anything else? Because I have the last question from my super fan friend. So if you have anything else, buddy, go ahead. Go ahead before we get to it.
I just wanted to ask about the May 1st live stream. Is that a ticketed event? Is it free? Do you have any bundle options for the album?
You know, that's a good question. I can't say for sure, but I will certainly make sure that we let people know. I don't know the specifics of it just yet, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, we'll stay tuned and we'll report on that. My last question for you, it's a bit esoteric, but my friend thinks this way. He's why I know about the broader catalog, not just Shipping Up to Boston and all of your great songs. Last question. You know, you come out of Boston, the music is Irish. What makes a quintessential Irishman?
If I've learned anything over my time in dealing with family members and, you know, a lot of it is Irish American people in New England, obviously, but seems like a true Irishman seems to stuff their emotions down as far as they can possibly stuff them. And then one day the top pops off and then it all gets pushed back down again. So
turns out my friend is Irish. I didn't know that.
Well, he might be, you know, much like a lot of us, he might be stuffing down his true emotions. So maybe just ask him how he's doing or something.
No, I was just making a joke. Tim, this was a pleasure. Thank you so much. Wish you much success with the album. It's called Turn Up That Dial. It's out. It comes out what date? I have the date.
April 30th.
April 30th. It comes out April 30th. If you're watching this before April 30th, obviously go ahead, pre-download, pre-order. If you're watching this on or after April 30th, make sure to get this. Dropkick Murphys never disappoint. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure.
You know, Matt, if I'm looking down at all, that's because my camera's a little higher up and I like looking at the screen. Plus, I've got notes on it. So bear with me, guys. If you don't see me looking directly at the camera, I'm making sure I'm not stumbling over what I'm about to ask or say something stupid to make me look like an idiot.
You say something stupid? No.
Never.
No.
Bloopers.
Never.
We have some in the audio form. We have some nice or outtakes, maybe extended things that didn't fit previous episodes. We've got them coming as we need them. So subscribe. Be sure to subscribe so you can check all that stuff out. And of course, it'll be all on our socials and everything. But, you know, the 10th studio album, they said it was done differently than ever before. You know, it definitely sounds more complicated than it was likely to be planned, as most of the time, you, like you said, you just go in and you cut the chord tracks and then there's scratches and then you overdub. But now with everybody going in separately, I've been there, done that. It's not always fun because the energy isn't necessarily there because you're binded to some type of click or some type of just pre-recorded thing and you can't really expand on that all the time. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this album sounds compared to the others. I'm sure it's going to sound great. It's going to sound previous ones, but the energy how
that's going to inform the signature and what that's going to do to the through line throughout. It'll be really unique. Every album created during this pandemic, I think, is going to have some sort of unique signature, or maybe you won't even be able to tell compared to the old analog. So it'll be really interesting 5-10 years down the road to compare music that came out during the pandemic versus once everybody's back together. And speaking of getting people back together, it's finally time. We have been submitting press ticket requests finally again for dates that were rescheduled from spring of last year to spring of this year that haven't moved. The venues have figured out how to make it work. And when I tell you I was moved to tears, buddy, I was moved to tears because remember, my goal was always, because I'm a sadist, my goal was to have a butt in a seat every single weekend. Yeah. Every single weekend, I wanted to be in a seat in a venue. And then I was trucking along pretty good. And then that stopped cold in March of last year. And now to see these dates for spring here in the DC area not moving again, that is really, really cool. Did not get in for Winona. I did find that out. That's one we have coming up at the Birchmere, but I'm waiting on another one at another area venue. And I'm excited. Did you hear about yours?
I didn't yet. I need to follow up. But I remember texting you the other day. I'm like, I just did something I haven't done in over a year. And that was press tickets. So if it happens, that'll be later in the summer. But, you know, I'm in California, so things are a lot
stricter
than they are in the rest of the country. I mean,
sure.
I found out the morning that we're recording this that the theme parks are finally going to reopen on specific dates. You know, Disneyland, Universal has finally announced it, Knott's Berry Farm, Six Flags, all of them. And it's going to be quite different. I mean, they're not going to allow people to eat or drink while they're walking through the park. Masks.
Right.
So there's designated areas. You know, we also are getting feeling better about Garth in Vegas happening. We've been discussing this for over a year now.
I'm freaking praying every night.
That is July 10th as of this recording. And he has even said, confirming yesterday, and you can find this article on the website, that they're starting to get the okay to make more on sale announcements. So what that means, though, is that some of the stadiums, and it sounds like it's up to each location based on, you know, recommendations and all that, they're not going to serve concessions. And concessions are the way these stadiums survive. So
Yeah.
Russ is very thankful for that. He's saying, not to see that as an inconvenience, but as a safety for him and his crew and band and us as fans. So we may have to remain wearing masks, whether you have the shot or not.
But you know what? I hope what that does, just to stop you there, and this would be a great topic for a future podcast with a guest, maybe from the concessions industry, maybe somebody from Live Nation. But what I hope that does is I hope that injects cash back into the restaurants, because the artists can always negotiate their contracts with the venues so that the venue gets a little bit more of a leg up than they typically do, because they would have that concessions. What I hope this does is it's a boon for the restaurants, because that means, oh, I can't snack my butt off, while I'm watching the show, or I can't drink myself silly. I'm going to go and pregame at this local restaurant. So I hope that is a boon for the restaurants as the restaurants come back too. And I hope this whole ecosystem, economic system of yin and yang, of venues and restaurants and all that, really works out to balance each other out. And they find that level in what I hope are the last stages. No concessions, but maybe by the end of the year, we'll have concessions again. Once the whole goal is to get everybody vaccinated and return to normal. And this trepidation in the middle of get everybody vaccinated, but I hope that sort of will be temporary. So
yeah, my thing is, it's not just obviously Garth's tour that he's talking about. It's going to be every tour affected these different conditions, and it's going to vary from location to location. But our social media guru Brittany, she has reached out for one that looks like she's going to be covering, and she said that she may have to prove that she's vaccinated for meet and greet. So from what I'm hearing, and I heard this from Eddie Trunk. I'm an avid listener on SiriusXM. He says he's hearing from Live Nation that he thinks there's going to likely be a couple of different entrances. One of the people who are vaccinated, you flash your card.
Yeah.
All ticketless. It's all electronic entry. So you're going to scan your phone. You're going to flash your card. You're going to get in quicker. Those who refuse to be vaccinated or haven't had the chance yet, likely going to have to be tested before you even enter. So I guess it depends on where you stand on that, on how easy or hard it will be to get in and what you're willing to do. But I'm sure some type of proof is going to be required as you.
They're talking about these COVID passports, and people are like, I don't want to have to COVID, but what the heck? Well, you have to have proof that you're inoculated before you can go to preschool or kindergarten. It's the same thing. You got to have proof that this disease we're trying to eradicate, you've done your part to try to eradicate it. So
if they're talking, full capacity again, I mean, I'd rather know that the persons next to me are vaccinated. If I or myself or my daughter and I are there, enjoying 70,000 people at a show, whatever it is, or you're standing in the merch line or however they're going to do it, I'd rather feel that comfortability knowing that, hey, we know we're all in this together, but we all care together as well. And plus, I mean, if you have a chance to meet the artist, you don't want to risk it.
Well, this is an incredible time to be watching. It feels like the clouds are parting. Might still be raining. Clouds might still be raining, but they are parting. I know I have very weird analogies. So we'll just keep you posted, and we'll keep talking about this, and maybe do an episode of our podcast or of Weekend Notes, all about how stadiums are going to handle the return of concerts and what they're going to allow versus what they're not going to allow. So let's
try to find out some more. But I can say, Kenny Chesney's pushed his back. And as of this morning, too, Pearl Jam has pushed back their European summer trek to next year. No word on the U.S. dates. I think everybody's kind of holding off as late as possible because they're hoping with the vaccines rolling out as quickly as they are that we can.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I want to make sure I say this right. I'm not going to say this isn't a fact. I just don't know if other countries have as broad a program to roll out their vaccine as we do. I only keep hearing about our rollout, what President Biden is doing. But, the other countries are smaller. I don't know why they can't, but I know for us, we have that goal of May. Everybody has access by May, and then by June, July, shots in arms across the country, nearly everybody done. So we'll see. We'll see.
Just keep tuned to all your news sources for all that, and we'll cover it as much as we can as well. But I'm Buddy for the Music Universe, Matt,
and I'm Matt.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Check out the new website, TMUpod. That's TMUPOD.com. And that'll give you access to wherever you could hear us. And be sure to subscribe to socials and keep checking out the latest news, release info, and more at themusicuniverse.com. See you next time.